All right, y'all. So look, I'm gonna add some more features to StreamYard. It's gonna be some upgrades coming, y'all. It's gonna be some upgrades coming. Got some other things to take care of. Like I say, I don't be asking for no money or nothing like that. People want to donate, they can. I don't even post it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna be doing all this stuff on my own whim, and that's fine and dandy, because that's how I like it. Um, what I'm gonna do here, we're gonna go into the Fearless Fund, and we want to talk about why isn't the CBC and so-called black leaders or any of these so-called supposed to be our leaders, which we don't need any leader. Code of conduct should be the leader. Neely Fuller taught us that for years. We don't need no more leaders. We don't need that. But since they're always squawking and barking, why ain't they raising hell about the Fearless Fund? Now I could go live. I don't have to go straight through YouTube and have ODS as an encoder. And it sounded pretty good. So I might start doing that. Thirsty. Got my coffee. So I'm going to start playing. I want to play some footage so we get a little background on this. And I want to dig deep as to what the lawsuit is. And then we going to tie into why we keep saying this can't be race-based. Folks have been losing their minds online because foundational freedmen, descendants of slaves, whatever the hell you want to call it, we've been raising hell saying, hey, this can't include all black folks. This can't include the whole damn world. Because if you say black, if you say African, if you say any of that stuff, they strike it down. They created the Constitution, 14th Amendment, specifically for us. That's something that we demanded. But now they're double taking on and say, well, you can't even use black. That was created for black people. Freedmen. So we got to use the freedmen. Well, if you came here on a raft or a boat 5 minutes later, you're not a freedman. So you don't even qualify. And you know what? When it comes to like CARICOM and, a lot of African nations, they're demanding reparations and stuff like that. This Fearless Fund's going to tie into all of this because it benefited, I think, a little bit of too much everybody. But they probably just couldn't get the funding and the support just to say black. So we'll go into that in a minute. So there's some criticisms that I have, but it's like, all right, whatever. You know what I'm saying? They try to do something just for black women. It's only for black women. It ain't for black men. But whatever, you know what I'm saying? Let them get their bread. But now they're like, hey, can't nobody get nothing. So let's break it down. Yeah, I know it's kale. It's okay.
The Fearless Fund, we first told you about it, a venture capital firm that invests in female entrepreneurs of color, has shut down one of its
fair use YouTube, fair use
grant programs as part of a legal settlement. Now, the firm, you may recall, was sued last year by the American Alliance for Equal Rights. The conservative group had claimed the program was in violation of the Civil Rights Act because it was only open to black women.
Let's stop that, y'all. The Civil Rights Act of 1866 was for who? I want everybody to Google that right now. Who was it for in the first place? Now, let me show you how these race soldiers, such as suspected race soldiers, such as Ed Blum and that group, that entire group, we're going to look into that too. I'm telling you, it's very crafty on how they did this because the Civil Rights Act is specifically for foundational blacks.
Well, on Wednesday, both sides reached a settlement agreeing to dismiss the case and end the program. This case comes after a federal appeals court ruling in June, ordering the program to be suspended. So according to the Fearless Fund, less than 0.5% of venture capital funding goes to businesses led by women of color. Only on CBS Mornings, we love when that happens. Its founding partner and CEO, that's Ariane Simone, is here.
We love when that happens to the point where now they can't get it at all. What's interesting about this, Kale, is that you got this sister up here. I don't know if she's a freedman. She probably is. But what I'm saying is because that language was not used, they said it's only for black women. When I go to the website, I want y'all to see it just was not for black women. That's not my biggest issue. What I'm saying is they found a loophole to say, well, since you're focusing on primarily black, and I seen a whole bunch of women of color, BIPOC and all that. I seen a lot of that on the website. But they should have used the terms freedmen, because I know they had lawyers involved. But what it is Negroes get to, well, it can't just be for us. You start getting that going on. And now you have this.
Your first interview since the settlement. Good to have you back, Gary.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Great to have you back.
Because I heard you say the other day that the settlement, you consider this a win for you. Most people hear that and go, how is that a win? You have to shut down your program.
This is definitely a win for us. It was actually my idea.
Oh.
In the big scheme of things, we deploy millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
The one grant program that was in this case had already been at its conclusion when we got sued.
Mm-hmm.
There was only one $20,000 grant left to award.
Okay.
All the money from that program had already been deployed.
Mm-hmm.
Just one grant left. So if we have to forego that one grant to stay in business to deploy millions, that is definitely a win.
So you're saying you always remained in business, didn't you?
Oh, we've
Even
been
while
in
this
business
litigation
the entire
was going.
time during the litigation. Now, don't get me wrong. Being in business during litigation definitely has its bumps and bruises, but we have invested during this whole process. We've been deploying grants this whole process. We were deploying grants just about 2 weeks ago at a big event called Fearless Moguls. We have been operating fully functioning, yes.
But on the principle, though, I mean, this is a fund for black women. The disparity is real. The underrepresentation
Numbers
is
don't
real. Why not take the defense of that principle all the way to the Supreme Court?
Now, this is a fund actually for women of color.
Women of color.
Since inception.
See? Okay, look, y'all. I'm really trying. I'm trying not to knock them too much because I don't want to hurt the sisters. But man, look, this woman of color stuff, you're not going to have their same compadres that's going to open something up to include them at the same circle. They're not going to do that. But let's continue. And I'm going to tell you why it has to be lineage-based reparations for black folk. For black folk.
Always, we have Hispanic founders, we have Asian founders since inception.
Oh, see?
The one program they sued was a program actually designed for black women.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
So why not go on?
Why not?
Yeah, I think that's.
Why not go to the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Well, I think the writing is already on the walls with their current rulings. That a Supreme Court ruling that were to take place not in our favor, this would have shut us down out of business, but every single minority-based funding program for women as a whole sex and people of color as a whole.
Now, I want y'all to understand, I don't really know too much about her, so I'm not going to cast too many aspersions. But when you have your chest out saying, okay, only for black women, then y'all going to have to lay on that hill. And that hill's coming soon. But see, let's continue here. Let's continue here. But before we do, let's just go to the website real quick. I'm trying to be as diplomatic as I can. Now, when you go to the website, they got the Fearless Fund. We know the companies with a female founder perform 63% better on average than an all-male founding team. Despite a greater potential to produce higher returns, women are historically underfunded, particularly women of color. So really, it's kind of an attack against the dudes, because as we know, when we look at DEI, white women are the #1 recipients. Then goes Latinos and LGBT. So that's really an attack against black men when you think about it. Now they say they do 63% better. I don't know if that's true. Most of the biggest corporations in the world were not founded by women. But Their team here, Arian Simone, general partner. I think that's the sister here. Rodney Sampson. They're not using terms. It says Rodney Sampson. It's not saying a he, but I guess that's a dude. I'm assuming it is, but it's not. They're using these weird little terms. Is diversity and advisory firm. I'm not seeing a he, but I'm assuming it's a he. Tracy Gray. They're using a she for Tracy. But let's see about this Rodney Sampson person. I don't see a he there, you know, but that's the team. Now, let's look at the portfolio, because that's really what's going to tell you where the money's going. Now, they made this capital thing, and men aren't included. So think about it. When black men say, hey, we need some capital firm funding for the foundational freedmen of America, black men and women, you see what I'm saying, folks? Jump up. And now what they could say with this is they say, well, women don't get this, but that's not divisive because we're including people of color. You got Gabriel. These are all the people. Black Lives Matter, of course, here. Chloe Cheyenne. They throwing up the black fist. And these are all the people that got a bag for their business. These are all the folks that got a bag. All right, cool. That's what they set it up for. But I'm going to tell you why it should be lineage based when it comes to, because they're saying that they saying black women can't get no more than 20 bands. She said it was $20,000 and Ed Blum started raising hell.
The consequence of that is too big.
Now, we did reach out to the American Alliance for Equal Rights for comment. Its president, Edward Blum, said in part in a statement that race-exclusive programs like the one the Fearless Fund promoted are divisive and illegal, and how opening a grant program like this.
So it's not divisive to give Ukraine and illegal aliens money. It's divisive to give black women money. Is that what you're saying, Blum?
All participants is enshrined in our nation's civil rights laws. Now, we have seen a growing list of lawsuits against diversity and inclusion. So what is your advice to programs that are seeing this type of approach?
Well, if they stand by their beliefs, I think they should stand by their beliefs. What I mean by that is, literally, we won in the U.S. Federal District Court. We did. We only lost the appeal, but we actually won the preliminary injunction in the federal court case.
But what is it that you understand about this issue that others don't? Why you
black men in general, I guess, if you go include every other race, men in general could say this is divisive. But most guys, we're not saying that. We're like, okay, if we gonna set some court precedents here, we need to have lineage-based programs. Because now the foundationals are saying we want lineage-based reparations, just like the native tribes. The native tribes have that. It's based on lineage. People are saying that we're divisive. DP, you should not just be looking out for the descendants of the slaves that built this land and built this country.
why you think that this is so crucial. We know about the disparity, but what else is your message here today?
It's unfortunate that people even feel the way they do.
But they do.
The disparities are evident.
Yeah.
Women of color and Black women in particular receive less funding than any other entrepreneur demographic, while starting.
Black people in general receive less funding. Black folks in general receive less funding. If I don't hawk up and if I don't get a dress and hawk it up and walk around with a switching my ass through Minneapolis, I'm not gonna get no funding. I'm not gonna get no funding.
Starting more businesses than everybody else. I'm talking a fraction of a percent. You guys have stated the stats more than once. It's unfortunate that anybody would view this as something wrong or illegal. clearly the U.S. Federal District thought it was just fine, which is why they granted us the right to continue for that one grant left.
And like you said, that the Fearless Fund did not stop moving.
No.
You guys kept going, and you have launched a new $200 million fund for under-resourced entrepreneurs. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, we are excited. So now we've added to the capital stack. We've always had venture dollars, which is cash for ownership, similar to what people see on different shows. In addition to that, we've always had grants at our foundation. Now we have a debt loan program. Any entrepreneur that is pretty much in business for a year, $50,000, under-resourced, of course, and has a credit score of 600 can apply for the program. This is for men and women, but this was always designed for men and women.
Really?
What more needs to be done? We've been having this conversation.
Oh, now here's where it gets sticky at. Y'all not gonna like this at all. If I'm Pookie or Ray Ray and now I want to be Pookisha and I get a BBL, if I get a BBL and now I identify as Pookisha, do I qualify for a 50,000? You see, this could get, I'm telling you, this DEI stuff could get weird. This DEI stuff could get weird, y'all. Now let me go into this. Now I'm tying this into DEI because that's a DEI thing. Now check this out. Now, what we're gonna do, I want to play this right here. I want to play this. This has something to do with it, y'all, because that's a DEI. That's under the program of DEI. That's that DEI stuff. Now, what we've been seeing lately, I got to speak about it on here because DP, well, this is a tech channel from the Black American experience. Because when it comes to technology and stuff like that, this is the garbage that they're using to basically say, hey, we need to get behind Sharpton and all of this, and we need to boycott this and boycott that. We're always being boycotted. So this sister's going off, and she be spitting fire every time I see her. Check this out.
To my people, Black Americans, if y'all care so much about diversity and inclusion, let me know when y'all ready to boycott the corner stores and the beauty supply stores and the curry outs. Let me know, because those affect us more directly than what y'all talking about. Okay, we didn't benefit from DEI. That don't have shit to do with us. Okay, so let me know when y'all really ready to boycott the shit that matters, the shit that's taking over our communities, have been taken over.
This might be a little low. It might be a little low. Actually, you know what? Damn, man. I was supposed to be recording this on my podcast machine. I done messed up, y'all. I done messed up. I think what I'm going to do is just start recording it right now. And if y'all want to listen to it, just the audio, I'm going to just go ahead and just get it going. Because I was supposed to record this from the very beginning.
The liquor store. You know what I'm saying? The shit that's ran right down the street by somebody who don't even look like you, by people who watch over your shoulder when you go in there, by people who accuse you of stealing sometimes. Let me know when y'all ready to boycott shit that matter. Not Target. Target that then gave opportunities to Black creators. There are Black creators who have their products. They're still there.
Matter of fact, there's this deodorant company called Play Pits. Oh man, it smells great. That's at Target. So you goofy Negroes are going to go and boycott Target. You're boycotting them by default. Yeah, you could go ahead and shop local and stuff. You're still going to go to Walmart and all the other places, which has been mistreating Black women for executive professional positions, not allowing them to get into leadership positions, right? You see what I'm saying?
Why the fuck are we trying to boycott Target? What are y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? We need to start with the shit in our own communities that affect us. How about we boycott some of these churches?
Right.
That take people money and don't do shit for the community.
Yeah.
Let me know when y'all really ready to boycott the shit that matters. Other than that, I got shit to give from Target. You know what I'm saying? I'm about to go shop right now.
Easy on the eyes. Y'all know some of the brothers looking at her like, hey, easy on the eyes. Let's get focused. Like Umar. Like Umar says, focus. Focus. So look, No, the sister's spot on. Here's another one. Let's go through this. We're gonna go through it.
So let me get one thing straight. You went out, shopped, and stocked up on supplies yesterday from the same stores that you're boycotting today. Let me ask that again. You went out, shopped, and stocked up on supplies yesterday from the same stores that you're boycotting today. And you're doing this because of a boycott call to action by Al Sharpton, who, by the way, has profited off of years and years
Facts
of Black trauma. Not only that, but you're on Instagram and Facebook, 2 platforms that are owned by Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, who are dismantling DEI policies from their company. Which, by the way, according to the U.S. Department of Labor, DEI does not benefit Black people on such a large scale, like people are making it out to be. Also, you're still on Twitter, the very platform that is owned by the very man who also does not support DEI policies.
I don't need to say nothing else. She's spitting fire as well. Let me move this over before we go through any more video. I'm going to tell y'all what the real issue is. It's not dismantling the DEI. This is a psychological issue. I used to use the term pickaninny plantation politics. This is trauma bonding, plantation-minded Negroes that just want a pat on the head. Y'all are still on the platforms, those that own it, saying, well, we need to keep the DEI. Oh, this is just like this like marching on that John Lewis trash. You see what I'm saying? We need to boycott. All these old civil rights niggas is telling you need to boycott this and boycott that while they get their pockets lined, and they still use the same platforms of the people that own the platforms that's against what you're saying is DEI. I never thought about it like that. That's why I had to play that sister. I never, ever thought about it from that standpoint. Now, granted, I mean, it's almost like somebody says, well, boycott this, boycott that. Well, the telephone company owns this, right? You still got to use a telephone. Well, we shouldn't be spending the white man's money and all. You get some dumb niggas like that. We got to spend money. You got to have money. You got to have some kind of exchange of commerce or currency. So whenever you hear some Negro talking about, well, we don't need no reparations because that's the white man money. A lot of them dudes wish they could have some money and they don't really have any, and they've never turned $1 into 2. So in their mind, anything that somebody's doing that might be a little better, like even with the Fearless Fund, I'm not going to totally discount that, y'all, because even the sister that came up with it, like I said, y'all know I don't really get down with that BIPOC garbage and POC because it's just a social integration. It's colder ice. But she's like, all right, I'll dance with the devil a little bit. Yeah, I got to set this up to help sisters out. I might have to just dance with the devil a little bit. So I'm not really going to completely count her out for that. I will critique and say that if you're going to do something specifically for Black women, she probably figured, well, I'm not going to make it lineage based because then the immigrant Blacks can't get it. Yeah, but they're shutting it down. You can't use something that says Black. And the lawyers should have known that. But I don't think people were thinking about it until, you got a lot of race soldiers that were probably like, oh, wait a minute. This is specifically for Negroes? Oh, we got to get rid of that. So Ed Blum went to work. I wish we had a Black Ed Blum. I wish we had a Black Ed Blum that was just as ferocious as Ed Blum, that went as hard as Ed Blum is going for the system of white supremacy as bad. I wish we had an Ed Blum that was that dedicated for our reparations and for our grants, like the Fearless Fund. Well, the women's grants or whatever, you know what I'm saying? They say the other one is for men or whatever, but I wish we had an Ed Blum. I wish we had a Donald J. for foundationals and for the freedmen. I wish we had a Donald Trump that was that hell bent on getting his. He represents for the white man. Donald represents for a white man, white American. He goes hard for a white man. I wish we had a black person that was like that. We had Johnny Cochran. We had Marion Barry. You know what I'm saying? You don't really see a lot of that too much to that certain degree. But let's go into the paperwork. Now, I wanted y'all to see this, and I wanted to read all of it. Now, this is the United States Court of Appeals for the 11th Court, American Alliance for Equal Rights. Let's go ahead and copy that and look that up in a minute. Now, versus Fearless Fund Management, Fearless Fund, he went through all of them. He went through every single last one. Now, for anybody in the sound of my voice that says, well, all black folks should get reparations. I mean, globally, yeah, but it got to come from different places. It can't come from us. If black Americans are demanding reparations or grants or whatever, this y'all understand, this is a court precedence. This is a core concept that I'm bringing about to say as to why you can't use the word, you can't use race-based. And if I'm lying, then this doesn't matter, because what Newsom Circuit Judge is saying in this appeal from the denial of preliminary injunction, we are asked to decide whether the Fearless Strivers Grant Contest and entrepreneurship funding competition open only to businesses owned by black women violates 42 USC 1981, which prohibits private parties from discriminating on the basis of race when making or enforcing contracts. We must also decide as a threshold matter whether the plaintiff, the American Alliance for Equal Rights, has standing to challenge the contest. After careful review and with the benefit of oral argument, we hold that the Alliance has standing and that preliminary injunctive relief is appropriate because Fearless Fund's contest is substantially likely to violate 1981, is substantially unlikely to enjoy First Amendment protection, and inflicts irreparable injury. We therefore affirm the district court's determination that the Alliance has standing to sue, but otherwise reverse its decision and remand with instructions to enter a preliminary injunction. Now they're saying Fearless Fund describes itself as venture capital fund that invests in women of color. So when you say women of color, when y'all say women of color, what that does is that brings in, remember what Dr. Claude Anderson says, that weakens black men and women's claim. When we say, hey, our folks built this land, we need to be repaired. Not only does it need to be repaired, but you're not supposed to discriminate against us. The Civil Rights Act of 1866. Look that up. Who was that for? But they're doing it right here. Remember when Fuller says Ed Blum is taking both sides of the argument at an astronomical level. But when you say women of color, what that does is now that's evening it out. Well, not even evening it out. That's saying, well, it's going to be black, it's going to be brown, it's going to be yellow, it's going to be purple, it's going to be red, not white. So they're like, okay, wait a minute. You can't do that. So we can't use the word black or race. That's what I'm trying to this is what I'm trying to say. This is what foundational blacks have been saying. The foundational freedmen of America. Your great-great-grandmama that picked cotton and built this damn land. We have to have something specifically for those descendants, not folks that showed up 60, 70 years later and said, I'm oppressed because of race. That won't work Because if you go to folks like Ed Blum, he's going to pull this up. He's going to say, well, wait a minute. You can't ask for something specifically because it's race-based. That violates the Constitution. I'm going to bring something else up too in a minute. Now, it says the Fearless Fund, the Fearless Strivers Grant offers 4 winners $20,000 apiece. Importantly, for our purposes, the contest is open by its own terms only to Black females who are U.S. legal residents. More particularly, to qualify for the competition, a business must be at least 51% of Black woman owned. So now, this opens up for interpretation because now 51%, that's majority rule. The other 49%, if I'm getting my math right, if I'm wrong, y'all ping me and say you need to go back to arithmetic class. The other 49% does not have to be a Black woman. You see what I'm saying? But 51% must be Black woman owned. Because Fearless Contest has been challenged here under 42 USC 1981, which prohibits race discrimination in the making and enforcement of contracts. They put that in parentheses. Whether the contest constitutes a contract is central to this dispute. The rules then went on to explain that in exchange, Fearless would obtain the right to discuss or otherwise disclose the ideas in the contestant's entry or otherwise use those ideas without any additional compensation, as well as the right to use the contestant's name, image, likeness for public relations, advertising, promotional purposes, and in other media. Opinion of the court. They're saying Fearless plan to run the contest 4 times. American Alliance for Equal Rights is a 501c membership organization that, according to its founder, is dedicated to ending racial classifications and racial preferences in America. Let me tell y'all something. The Marshall Plan, who benefited from that? Right? See, after race soldiers and suspected race soldiers was able to benefit financially, remember what Dr. King talked about, land grant colleges. They were able to benefit from everything right here that we were denied. Then came back and said, okay, yeah, y'all was slaves. The 1866 Civil Rights Act was for you. The 14th Amendment was specifically for the freedmen. That's in the Constitution. Now, everybody else, people of color, BIPOC, they try to hijack it and they benefited from it. But everybody knows. But they try to weave around it like, oh, it's for us too. It was never for you. But you're welcome. We're so welcoming and we're so spiritually open to other people. We're like, all right, okay, y'all are welcome. But it wasn't for you. Never. It was never for you. But y'all benefited from it. So instead of just saying like, you know what, thank you, their attitude is like, nigga, it's for me. You better let me have it. That's their attitude now. That's what a lot of legals are saying. Oh yeah, that's ours. No, it wasn't. All right, so, but what they're saying is these things were done against you. We're going to look past the 1866. They're using the 1866 Civil Rights Act, which was specifically for us because of discrimination, and they're morphing it into saying, well, yeah, you were discriminated against, but you can't use black. That's really what they're doing. They say it again. Challenging, they said the Alliance sued Fearless the day after applications opened for the 4th entry period. So they waited until, and they probably were working on this. That's why I say we need an American Alliance for Equal Rights. We need a black Ed Blum. Oh yeah, I'm saying it. well, he's evil. We need a black Ed Blum. We need somebody that is sinister when it comes to getting our tangibles. Lawful, but he's sinister. Like he the boogeyman. He coming out there. He coming out. Well, they say Kendrick was a boogeyman. He coming out there as the boogeyman. Like, hey, my folks got to eat. Don't give a damn about no emotions or feelings. My folks got to eat. My folks got to eat. Pass that law. We need somebody like that, man. We need somebody like that because they want to end racial classifications that they made. So this is I'm white and I say so over I'm white and I say so on steroids. This is I'm white and I say so going on top of I'm white and I say so. I made the racial classifications, Negro. And now I'm saying I'm going to get rid of the racial classifications at the same time. That's how insane this is. But it worked. So their child, after the fourth time, they challenged the contest under 42 USC 1981. In particular, Alliance concluded that Fearless's contest constitutes a breach or constitutes a contract for 1981 purposes because entrants enter into a bargain for exchange with Fearless when they apply, and two, that the contest violates 1981 because by its terms, it how do you say this? Categorically excludes non-black applicants from eligibility because of their race. The Alliance sought a preliminary injunction to prevent Fearless from closing the application process. So like when she said, well, this was intentional. She could have did this to show this is what they own. So she might be smarter than I'm not. She don't seem like a dumb woman. I ain't never gonna say that about that system. Now, this whole POC thing, maybe she probably used it to, I don't know if she believes really everybody's everybody, or I'm gonna tap dance a little bit in order to get us in the door to do what we need to do. Otherwise, they won't give us the money. Either or, she ain't stupid. So if she was thinking about, well, I'm just gonna put a little bait for Ed Blum. Sounds like she could have did that. So they keep mentioning 1981. They steady mentioning this 1981 ordeal. So now this is what they use. We begin with the Alliance standing to sue. According to the Supreme Court, standing doctrine is rooted in Article 3 of the Constitution, which authorizes federal courts to hear and decide certain classes of cases and controversies. U.S. Constitutional Art 3, and then that little weird sign, whatever it is, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. 2, an organization may vindicate the rights of its members by suing on their behalf. See Students for Fair Admissions, Inc. versus President and Fellows of Harvard College, 600 U.S. 181, 199-200. In order to demonstrate the requisite standing to do so, an organizational plaintiff like the Alliance must show that its members would otherwise have standing to sue in their own right. There's no question here that the Alliance satisfies the second and third prerequisites. It seeks racial equality. So now we're equal for its members in interest germane to its purposes, and neither the civil rights claim it asserts nor the preliminary injunction it seeks necessitates individual proof or requires the individual's member particulation. The Alliance's standing thus turns entirely on whether its members would have standing to sue on their own. Opinions of the court. So they're mentioning other cases. See Gratz versus Bellinger, Northeastern Florida chapter, contractors versus Jacksonville. See Aaron Private Clinic Management LLC versus Berry. Fearless challenges the Alliance standing on 2 grounds, both of which the district court rejected. First, Fearless contends that the Alliance can't establish standing because it has identified its members only by pseudonyms. Second, Fearless argues that the alliance hasn't demonstrated that its members are able and ready to enter the contest should Fearless open it to non-Black applicants. We agree with the district court that the alliance has standing to sue. Let's continue to go down. I mean, he gets deep. He gets deep. Let's go back. Let's go back to this. Now, I want to read this right here, because this is from Teen Vogue. This right here, matter of fact, I'm about to save this. I'm about to save this, because this shows our folks right here. The Freedmen's Bureau, how racist lawmakers thwarted an early attempt at reparations. The Freedmen's Bureau was supposed to support formerly enslaved people. This is by Jamila Nasheed, March 7, 2025. After more than 2.5 centuries of slavery, the Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, and the 13th Amendment, and let's be honest, there was slavery going all the way into the 1970s. ProPublica did an article about that. Black folks were still on the plantation in certain places, especially Louisiana. So let's not get with this, well, the bootstrap theory is null and void. We just pull up our own boots because we got to. We literally pull up our own boots because we got to. So, Civil War, the Emancipation Proclamation, and the 13th Amendment. Remember, they had to pass a 14th because they kept messing with us. Black people in America were no longer bound by the violent constraints of slavery legally. So on paper, you're not confined, but in practice and action, Bible say, yeah, y'all ain't slaves no more. Up, go ahead and pick this cotton. Go ahead and go into that Angola prison right there and pick this cotton. Peonage. Jim Crow laws, the whole shebang. Nonetheless, the transition from enslavement to life post and emancipation was not going to be easy. In an attempt to support this transition, the Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, commonly referred as the Freedmen's Bureau, was established. This marks 160 years since that bureau's creation, which makes this a great time to recognize its legacy, its unfulfilled promises, and what we can learn from it all. Although this agency was short-lived, lasting between 1865 and 1872. So when people say, well, you Black Americans, y'all are just like immigrants. No, we're not. Back to back, we had to fight for law after law after law after law after law. We did not flee. We did not tuck our damn tail. And we should be proud of that. And whenever somebody says something slick, we need to throw that in their damn face. We didn't even have time to enjoy the Freedmen's Bureau, right? Its impact was huge, including the pivotal role it played for Black Americans transitioning from slavery to life as free people. 1865 to 1872, that bureau was short. It was established March 3rd, 1865, when the act that created it was passed by Congress, signed into the law by Abraham Lincoln. Now let's keep it. I wish they would stop showing this garbage. I hate these damn apps, these ads. So he signed it in. He had no intention really to help us. He was forced to. So the National Archives explained the Bureau provided basic necessities, food, clothing, medical care, temporary camps. It helped legalize marriages, locate family members. It helped Black sailors and soldiers collect back pay. They owed us for that too. You see what I'm saying? A lot of Black men weren't paid. Bounty payments, pensions. Yeah, you owe us for that too. The Freedmen's Bureau helped free people navigate labor contracts. It helped them negotiate better deals that were in alignment with the Black codes. Laws passed by southern state governments after the war that placed extreme limitations on the rights of Black people. Let me read that one more time. The Freedmen's Bureau helped freed people navigate labor contracts, sometimes helping them negotiate better terms than those that offered that were still in alignment with the black codes. So even after slavery was supposed to be over, you had the black codes. You had all these codes. These black codes survived. They weren't, these laws were always there. They created this stuff just in case you got free, because even if you were free, you end up like 12 years a slave. According to the National Museum of African American History and Culture, these laws require newly freed people to sign labor contracts with white planters on terms almost indistinguishable from slavery.
African Americans built this nation. You built this nation. You know, you're just starting to get real credit for that. Okay, I don't know if you know that. You just start.
See? Was I right? So, even after the plantation, get back on this plantation. Here goes a janky contract. Here goes a TLC contract. Whoa. Here goes a TLC contract. Education was another major focus for the Bureau because y'all built this land, but we don't want you to be educated, because if you start using your mind, you already was geniuses on that plantation. If you really start getting access to a fraction of what we allow you to have or keep from you, man, you're gonna be a force to be reckoned with. And as you can see, Tulsa, Rosewood, North Carolina, everywhere, every city in this country, you had a black middle to upper class at one point that were doing their thing. So it set up schools for newly freed black people and poor white people. That's interesting about the Freedmen's Bureau. Very interesting. U.S. Army officer Otis Howard, who was appointed commissioner of the Freedmen's Bureau in 1865, used funds from the Bureau to purchase land and construct campus buildings for the first HBCUs. Howard. It also established other HBCUs during Reconstruction. Fisk University, Morehouse. Now these are pretty much immigrant tether communities with LGBT focus. I'm going to say that. No disrespect against some of our immigrant black brothers. No disrespect. None at all. But I got to call it like how I see it. Now they let it run amok. They let Sambos get in there and run amok. So I'm just talking about them. That of the tether class. Specific coons. Specific. I'm not talking about all black immigrants. Not at all. Just talking about specifics. And you have a lot of that in the Congressional Black Caucus. I'm going to get into that too. Because see, when the Black Caucus and a lot of these so-called black leaders like Sharpton and Jesse and all of them, when y'all don't get behind us getting tangibles, and when you don't fight for stuff that is going to benefit specifically the freedmen, we as the freedmen, our ancestors created all these laws. They made sure that these laws benefited everybody. So if we don't get behind it, you ain't going to have nothing anyway. Bottom line. And they pretty much run amok, and they allow these folks to just get paid so they can sit up in their nice house, mansion, and Cadillac, and they can just say to hell with us. That's why you don't hear the CBC talking about reparations. They're talking about it from a standpoint. They're talking real broad and ambiguous about it. They're using the terms black and African when they got lawyers. They know damn well that we can't use those words. We can't use those words. You can't sue for that. We can't even get a damn grant. You see what they're doing with the Fearless Fund. So another crucial piece of support of the Bureau was helping free people purchase land. On January 12, 1865, 20 black leaders in Savannah, Georgia, mostly Baptist and Methodist ministers, met with General William T. Sherman and Lincoln Secretary of War, Edwin M. Stanton, to discuss the need to formerly enslave people. So that was a Special Order 15 that was supposed to set aside land on the southeast coast for foundational blacks. The order which stated, so that each family shall have a plot of not more than 40 acres of tillable ground, led to the origin of the phrase 40 acres and a mule. America's most famous attempt to provide some forms of reparations for American slavery. Initially, here's a quote. Initially, the Bureau planned to lease these lands up to 40 acres to the free people. They were going to lease them. That shouldn't have been leased. That should have been given. Remember, Dr. King talked about it again. They was just handing over land grant colleges. So they were going to lease the lands up to 40 acres to the free people for a set time, about 3 years, and allow them to purchase the land. This was the ultimate desire of the free people. They wanted and needed a permanent or long-term federal institution that would help them achieve their dream of economic independence. So this was the U.S. government that had put black people in this position. All of the laws, all of that stuff. How do you stop this coach garbage? So by June of that year, 40,000 blacks had been settled on the land set aside for them through Sherman's order. In 1 month after the Freedmen's Bureau was established in April, Lincoln was assassinated. Johnson took office. Johnson, a white supremacist, had taken from many of the free people and returned it straight to the former Confederates. So the slave owners got reparations. So whenever you hear, listen to me, whenever you hear a white man talk about we already got paid reparations, the South got reparations. White Southerners, not blacks. So by the summer of 1866, most of the land had got taken back. All right, now, check this out. Listen to this. This is key. The will to truly support the transition of the free people from enslavement to self-sufficient citizenship was not there. The Freedmen's Bureau was never adequately funded or allowed to become a long-term agency. That wasn't their intention. We wanted it, but they never intended that for us. To become a long-term agency to a true transition from slavery to freedom, explains Davis. The former Confederates and mostly white Southerners in general opposed any federal support for the free people that would contribute in any way to their social, economic, education, or political advancement. So many words, y'all niggas ain't gonna work for us. We don't want you to have nothing. We don't intend to have nothing for you to have nothing. Perhaps more importantly, through political opposition also hampered the Bureau's effectiveness. The agency was initially supposed to exist for 1 year, but in 1866, lawmakers sought to remove the expiration date and expand support to include free people and refugees everywhere across the U.S., not just the South. Iterations of the bill was vetoed by President Johnson twice before the Senate and the House overrode the veto. Now, the Freedmen's Bureau Act of 1866 became law. July 16, 1866, but just 17 years after its creation in 1872, disbanded. Though the Freedmen's Bureau ceased operations in 1872, it resulted in the creation of millions of records with the names and information of hundreds of thousands of formerly enslaved people. And folks are telling us, well, y'all are immigrants. You ain't got no culture in the U.S. If we didn't have no damn culture, you wouldn't have no Fearless Fund. You wouldn't have a damn Fearless Fund. Because whether we like it or not, the sisters that put the Fearless Fund together, they wouldn't have been able to put that together if you didn't have the 1866 Civil Rights Act. The same act that Ed Blum used to undermine them. So you black Americans ain't got no culture. You ain't got no history. You need to go back and find that in Africa. We know that our African ancestry is genetic, but damn it, our heritage is here. We have some history, and your black ass wouldn't have been able to have it. I'm talking to the Sambos here. Your black ass wouldn't have been able to have it unless you had the 1866 Civil Rights Act and these amendments. Me too. Let me read that one more time. Because people say, well, how are you going to get lineage-based reparations and how that can't stand in court? It resulted in the creation of millions of records with the names and information of hundreds of thousands of formerly enslaved people. labor contracts, marriage certificates, and reports on racial violence documented the lives and struggles of free people during Reconstruction. These records are invaluable to historians, genealogists, and descendants of the formerly enslaved. The records provided a wealth of information that can be useful for those who are interested in learning about the beginnings of Reconstruction, the end of slavery, and a lot of precursors to the violence and eventual triumph of Jim Crow. So you see how devious Ed Blum was with that. I just talked about the 1866 Civil Rights Act. I just talked about 40 acres and a mule. I'm getting to a point here. I talked about the Freedmen's Bureau. I talked about how there's records. Now, some people, they hide the records, but a lot of us have records. I have access to paperwork. Okay? I have some access to paperwork. So whenever you hear somebody say, y'all ain't got no culture, you don't have no paperwork, you just pick cotton. You can't find this stuff. That's the first thing people say. You can't find it. It doesn't exist. You ain't got no culture. You're lazy. How we get a Fearless Fund? How we get a Fearless Fund, y'all? Somebody help me out. How we get a Fearless Fund? Now, I want to look at this too. And this is what they could use. Right here was published the 21st of February. The AB 1315 California American Freedmen Affairs Agency. That them bootlicking bastards out there, the Congressional Black Caucus, they shut it down. They were trying to figure out, now they're saying a proposal and a study. At this point, we don't need a study, but I think there's a Republican out there. But I guess he's trying to the CBC Negroes were trying to shut this down, but I believe it's a Republican out there is working together with this sister to get this going. California American Freedmen. This is what you have to use. So when you think about the Freedmen or the Fearless Fund, far as black women getting something specific, some people ain't gonna like that because it's lineage based. But this is it right here. They should be looking at stuff like this. This should be something that's in every state. This should be something that is in every state, y'all. That right there, that's what we need. We need to say, because people say, well, that's divisive. Well, damn it. Hey, we put in the work. We have to have that. We have to have that when it comes to stuff like Fearless Funds. Let me see if I can find some more of that DEI stuff, because I like bringing that up. But until we do, I want y'all to see this. Good Brother Online typed this up and said to name the significant legislation that the Congressional Black Caucus has passed in 53 years to benefit American freedmen. Now, in 53 years, this is all them niggas did. And I said niggas because I meant that, and I don't mean that in a good way. The District of Columbia Home Rule Act in 73, establishment of Martin Luther King Day, 83, Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act 86. That just goes to prove, far as well, you Black Americans, you don't look out for other folks in the diaspora. We shut shit down in South Africa. It was us here, nobody else. It was us. We made sure South Africa that apartheid was coming down. That's it right there. That ain't me talking. That's the Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act. While we were suffering from our own post-Jim Crow apartheid by these race soldiers, we went out of our way to make sure that our brothers in South Africa was getting some justice. And Nelson got back out, and he still let some of them white supremacists run amok. I'm gonna keep it real. Winnie was trying to tear their ass down. Nelson came out, and I don't know if it was probably the time, maybe in 30 years kind of, but when Nelson came out, this truth and really reconciliation garbage, rather than kicking all their ass out like Elon Musk is mad about them doing now. They should have been doing that shit in the 90s. But anyway, so commission on the, and from 86 now all the way to 2020, commission on the social status of Black men and boys. Examine social disparities and all this examining and studies and all that. That's all these niggas did. Then the George Floyd Policing Act. Address systemic racism and police misconduct. That's all they've done. And HR 40 introduced in 89. They still ain't got that passed because them Negroes know you can't use race-based words. That's all the Congressional Black Caucus have done. They're absolutely worthless. Absolutely worthless. This is my proof right here. That's another reason why we don't got the stuff that we should already have. They haven't done nothing. Nothing. Let's look up some more videos on the Fearless Fund. But until we do, let me close this. There was something that I wanted to look at. Let me see if I could find it. This is what I want to look at. I'll close this just to save resources. DEI is unconstitutional. Y'all gonna be surprised in what I say now. In a way, it kind of is, because DEI benefits everybody but Black folks. That violates those amendments that was set aside for us. But what they've done is they've made it to where they're like, okay, well, you see how they use the DEI thing? First, it was, well, it's Black, all minorities. That's what they mean. But now we don't benefit from it. So they get a couple white women to crash a plane or to do something they don't think they're competent enough to do. And now DEI is white women. Now, this is from December 9, 2024. So it says, now look at this. Close observers expect that on day one, President Donald Trump will reissue his executive order banning critical race theory throughout the federal government. We eagerly anticipate that order, but we also fervently hope that within the first 100 days of his new term, Trump will take a further action that will render it largely superfluous. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Published the Department of Justice Office of Legal Counsel memorandum explaining that the so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion regime isn't just bad policy, it's outright unconstitutional. The argument could be bold, simple, and beautiful, not to mention legally unimpeachable. In a single sentence, DEI amounts to racial stereotyping that violates the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. And you know what? It does. Well, DP, why would you say that? It's going to harm so many people. There's so many people that won't benefit. You mean like people other than the folks that it don't benefit?
Yeah.
Yeah. It actually is. Because black folks are supposed to be the main and only people that benefit from the 14th Amendment. Right? But see, they're double-sided. They're double-sided snakes, because at the same time, they're like, well, Fearless Fund violates the Constitution by giving something to black women only. You see how they're double attacking us. This is I'm white and I say so. Hey, I'm going to attack you Negroes. First, I'm going to attack DEI. Oh, this was only made for black folks. 14th Amendment, equal protection of the law. Then turn around and Fearless Fund. Oh, can't use it. It's only for black women. So which is it, Mr. Blum? They're doubling. It's a double-edged sword. They're coming through like Vader. I wish I had a little sound effect. I gotta find it. They coming through like Darth Maul. They coming through double-edged, using the Constitution on both sides. That's crazy. Not surprising. So look, this holding is compelled by the Supreme Court's landmark 2023 affirmative action case. Students for Fair Admissions versus Harvard and the precedents on which the case relies. In SSFA, Chief Justice John Roberts wrote that government may never use race as a stereotype. States actors are not permitted to act on or in any way promote the doctrine that minorities, quote, always or even consistently express some characteristic minority viewpoint on any issue, citing Grutter versus Bellinger, a 2003 affirmative action case. Roberts explains that the prohibition on racial stereotyping is found throughout our Equal Protection Clause jurisprudence more generally. The assumption that people of a particular race, because of their race, think alike is offensive and demeaning. Really? Citing Miller versus Johnson, a 1995 congressional redistricting case. Such racial stereotyping can only cause continued hurt and injury. Now, think about this. When they use the code word Black Lives Matter, DEI, they're talking about black folks. Ain't that a stereotype? But see, they're not using the word black. They're saying, well, you guys are just saying your Black Lives Matter and you want justice. But they're talking about black and code word. But that's dog whistles. They can say, hey, I didn't say anything racist. I just said DEI. I just said minority. I just said Chicago. I just said crime. You see? They didn't use the term race. They used code words. Justin Clarence Thomas. He further explained that the court's opinion in these cases make clear all racial stereotypes harm and demean individuals by lumping people together based on assumed inherited or ancestral traits. So, you know, he chimes in. In American public life, DEI is nothing but the promotion of racial stereotypes through government speech. Whiteness, blackness, white privilege, white fragility, indigenous ways of knowing. It's all stereotyping. Private citizens have a First Amendment right to speak of these things, but the government is prohibited by the 14th Amendment from promoting these stereotypes in its speech. Yet, they violate the 14th Amendment every time. I went to court for it and won. Equal protection under law. So, check this out. Now read this again and let it sink in. DEI is unconstitutional racial stereotyping that violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. Americans hate stereotyping. We love the 14th Amendment. We love equal protection. And if something is unconstitutional, it's by definition above political debate anyway. Neo-Marxist nonsense. See, they're using all these terms and these dog whistles Entire DEI departments and administrators would have to close shop. To be sure, universities would just try to mischievously rename the departments and retitle their staffers. But because DEI is racial stereotyping and racial stereotyping is prohibited, they could not keep doing DEI, and students and parents can sue to enforce that. During the height of the Biden administration's campaign to infuse every aspect of the federal government with DEI, our friend and hopefully future Supreme Court Justice Judge James C. Ho sounded the alarm over the rise of the woke Constitution. Fortunately for the American people, the actual United States Constitution is the single greatest weapon against wokeness. And a proper interpretation and enforcement of the 14th Amendment can and we trust will relegate DEI to the ash heap of history. And down here, now this is from the AEI. Now, what are they about? The American Enterprise Institute is a public policy think tank. So they're thinking about putting policies together. Y'all, this is what we need. We need a public policy think tank for foundational blacks. Specifically for the freedmen. That's what we need. And we work for the black folks that's on code that are not foundationals. We promote and we advocate for the Stokely Carmichaels. Not the Rollins. Not to the Rosa Parks needs to get to the back of the bus Nickies. No. This is what we need, y'all. I'm taking notes. I'm not really getting emotional about this. I'm charged up. I got my coffee. But that's what we need, y'all. I figured it out. We need an American Enterprise Institute for public policy think tank dedicated to defending human dignity, expanding human potential, and building a freer and a safer world for the Black American experience. Or maybe I shouldn't say black. Maybe I should just say freedmen. Maybe I should just say that. Because these folks are sitting around advocating while you got folks like Hood Rat Crockett talking about it's not illegal to harbor an illegal. That's our Congressional Black Caucus. It's not illegal to come into the country illegal and to harbor somebody that's quote unquote illegal. I didn't make the damn laws up. But you got folks that's actually telling you stuff like that. Let's see who actually stood up for the Freedmen's Fund. The Fearless Fund. Like I said, I try to be diplomatic about it. Most of the folks all right, let's see here. Oh. Uh-oh. Oh, here we go. Another blow to DEI. So y'all look, I told y'all. Looks like my internet's having a little issue. I'll close this part. It's just Wi-Fi. Man, look. Another blow to DEI. I told y'all that the Fearless Fund, this whole thing was like a DEI thing. I told y'all that. Now the news is confirming it.
In a major retreat by diversity advocates, venture capital firm.
This is weird. For some reason, it's coming out to speakers. I don't know how that happened. All right, let's make sure that it's okay. Wait a minute. Yeah, hold on. Something happened.
Fearless Fund.
There we go. Yeah, something happened. I don't know what happened right here.
Program that awarded grants.
Fair use.
Unpromoted are divisive and illegal.
Oh, wait a minute. Uh-oh. Lord. Oh, man. Who we got right here? Crooked blonde wigs and Benjamin. Who we got right here? When you see that face, and she looking like, yeah. Oh man. Who we got right here? Who do we got right here?
To Black women-owned small businesses. The Atlanta-based firm made the move to settle a lawsuit with anti-affirmative action and anti-DEI crusader Edward Blum. Speaking on the case, Blum
Crusader,
said,
man, we need some crusaders. We need some Freedmen crusaders. Damn. Man, I wish we had a Black Ed Blum.
Yeah.
Man, I wish we had one.
Race-exclusive programs like the one the Fearless Fund promoted are divisive and illegal. Opening grant programs to all applicants, regardless of their race, is enshrined in our nation's civil rights laws and supported by significant majorities of all Americans. Blum's organization, American Alliance for Equal Rights, filed the lawsuit in August of 2023.
Fast forward to June of this year, and a federal appeals court sided with Blum's stance that the program likely violated a Civil War era law barring racial discrimination in contracting. The court temporarily enjoined Fearless Fund from—
Let's go right to this.
Slaves during chattel slavery. Have a ton of money because a large part of it was value created off of free labor done by slaves during chattel slavery.
All right, let me go
that money,
one more time.
To more money.
When we've seen research suggesting that the more we focus on race, the more it becomes an issue for people.
Yeah, the way I see it is you've got people who have a ton of money because a large part of it was value created off of free labor done by slaves during chattel slavery.
A large part of people, race soldiers, you say that.
Invested that money, it's grown into more money. They're pretty rich now. A good analogy might be if you're playing cards with someone and then you find out that they've been cheating and they've made a ton of money off of you. You don't say, hey, okay, well, just don't cheat anymore and then deal another hand. You say, no, give me my money back. Let's start off from square one, because it turns out you've been cheating here to make all of this money. You wouldn't keep playing cards with that guy and be like, you know what, we're going to forget the past because the past was bad and we want to move forward. No, that guy's a cheater and he owes you the money back. That's kind of how I see the economy post-slavery. There's a ton of wealth concentrated in the hands of slave owners and descendants of slave owners. There's got to be some equalization of the resources in the country that were unequally and unfairly distributed. And so we can say in our relations with other people, yes, we see race, but we're not going to discriminate based off of race. That can be different from we have to equalize the playing field that's been offset by things that are unfair, things that are unlawful.
I think you might have a point if we were talking about a very—
Because here's the thing. The entire U.S. government was behind us being not just picking cotton, inventions, medical, every aspect of life to build this as a U.S. world power.
narrowly tailored type of situation where it was people who made their money off of slavery or are descendants of people who made their money off of slavery. And as you describe it, were then able to invest that money and get incredibly wealthy. But the fundamental problem here is that it's not a narrowly targeted program. This is white versus people of color. And I think it's fair to say that the majority of white people in America were not descendants of slave owners, had nothing to do with slavery. A lot of them were immigrants from other places.
But they benefited from it when they got here, and they were given acres of land. Land grant colleges, everybody. Land grant colleges. Do we got to play that?
the institution of slavery was already abolished. So when it's white versus black or white versus Latino or white versus Asian, as opposed to, as you're describing it, people who benefited from slavery versus people who were subject to slavery, that's an entirely different conversation. And it's one that is predicated on solely racial discrimination, as opposed to talking about reparations for people who were suffering versus people who perpetrated that suffering. I just think that it's too generalized, the conversation that we're having in terms of...
No, it's not, ma'am. It's very simple. This is the issue right here. Let's go ahead and refresh your memory. All those other groups that you mentioned don't qualify for reparations.
At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today, many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
All right. So they're still getting money to this day. That was 68 when he said that, but they still are getting money. They're still getting money while she's saying it's complicated.
This Fearless Fund and other funds like it. And I'll let you close us out, Jessica.
Yeah, I will say the Supreme Court in the past has ruled that you can deny someone business based off of their identity. You don't have to sell someone a wedding cake if they're gay.
That's not accurate. That's not what the Supreme Court ruled.
Grant. You have to give someone a grant because they're white? Maybe not. Maybe they can make decisions on who they give their loans to based off of identity in a similar way. Perhaps they could form a church that says it is our religion that only, black people deserve investment in the South who are the descendants of slaves, and then say it's a freedom of religion thing. I think there's a lot of avenues of ways they could go about continuing to give loans to Black Americans and get creative with the Constitution as it's been interpreted, not as it exists.
Well, you're talking about First Amendment rights versus the movement of money to certain racial groups. And what the Supreme Court ruled in that wedding cake case was not that he doesn't have to serve gay customers, but they were talking about the fact that he has artistic freedom, aka freedom of speech, to not write on a cake with his own hand that he supports a gay marriage. In fact, he offered that gay couple to sell them any cake in the shop. His only qualm was that he would not make them a custom cake that celebrated their gay wedding because that was a violation of his speech rights.
Well, in the same way that Citizens United depends on an interpretation of free speech to give money to political candidates, a venture capitalist firm is a business, and what they're selling is investments. And if certain people believe in their heart of hearts that it's against what they believe in to invest in white-owned businesses in the South, considering the legacy of slavery and how it affects the economy and wealth distribution today, that they don't believe in that, and so they shouldn't have to, and they should be able to.
That's a good point. Interesting. What if you're like, well, hey, you weren't a descendant of slaves. You might be a descendant of slave owners. Maybe you weren't, but you're not a descendant of slaves. Yeah, hey, I'm a broke white man. I grew up in the ghetto, but I don't believe my religious beliefs. Religion is backed by action. I don't really believe that I should be able to give you this grant because 9 times out of 10, you're going to go a little farther than Jerome or Pookie and Ray Ray here, right? That's a good point she makes.
To invest in Black women-owned businesses. I think you could argue in the same way it is a free speech concern.
And as such, that would actually give them an even greater ability to exercise that right than the cake owner who has been in court for the past 15 years because people keep wanting him to put things on cakes that he disapproves of. We're going to have to leave it there. We'll be back.
So yeah, let's let him make his cake. And if he don't want to make a buck break cake, if he doesn't want to make a Brokeback Mountain cake, me the power I beg of you. If he doesn't want to make a buck break cake, okay. But I don't want to give Billy Bob $20,000 when Sharmisha over here, or Pookie and Ray Ray, grew up in the projects and their family never gave them any wealth because that's against my beliefs. See, interpretation could go a long way. Interpretation could go a long way. She's like, hey, this is my right. I don't want to make a Brokeback Mountain cake. All right. Well, you see what I'm saying? How far does this interpretation go? Because the founders, and I talked about this, I ain't got it down. I talked about this in depth in my second book. The founders never intended black folks to have, let alone not be slaves, but never even have citizenship. So yeah, you're still 3/5 of a human, but we've had amendments that they had to fight for. Nobody willy-nilly just gave them that, but we had amendments that they had to fight for, right? Okay, so bam. I may not even use this audio for this podcast because I didn't get all of it. So we'll do another story time. This ain't so. This is an analysis. This ain't a story time. I'm gonna have to do another story time. I'll probably erase that other little piece and just use whatever audio we got. But that's what I'm saying. You know, I'm saying, hey, why doesn't the CBC and the so-called black leaders, and we'll look one more time. I want to see if they updated it because they done heard the black media speak. Did they update their website? Let's see if these niggas updated their website. Let's see if they updated their website. Let's just see. I'm wondering. They have not, y'all. They ain't changed a damn thing. Other marginalized communities, they doing this again. They still on this POC stuff. Voter suppression. Capital contracts and counseling for minority-owned business. Promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa. They still have yet to update anything about reparations, tangibles. Why haven't they raised hell for the Fearless Fund to a certain degree? You would have thought that they would have, but you know they got Crump on it. Meeting with Nixon. This is what they're bragging about. They met with Nixon. Apartheid in South Africa. So once again, we didn't put in the work. These are black Americans. We didn't put in the work. When folks say, well, y'all ain't Pan-Africans. Nobody's done this right here for us. Nowhere on the planet. Okay. Anyway, and the election of President Obama. That's all these niggas got. The day they disband this damn caucus will be a happy day for me. They're completely worthless. Completely worthless. They should have been on this Fearless thing. How many lawyers are in the Congressional Black Caucus? I'm trying to find out how many of these Negroes are lawyers. How many of them are lawyers? Should we go to brother chat? Should we go to brother chat? I'm telling y'all what the issue is at hand. They said the CBC doesn't publicly disclose their professional backgrounds. They got Maxine Waters, lawyers of color. Well, let's get to them. This is even better. Lawyers of color. Lawyers of color caucus issue. This is 2020, y'all. This is 2020. Being named to the lawyers of color top lobbyists and influencers. Planned Parenthood Federation of America. Congratulating baby butchers. Look at that name. You want to see some real devils? Look at that name. Yeah, we're going to go through the names. Sambo number 1. Sambo number 2. Sambo number 3. Y'all want to see some Sambos? Right here. The C Sambo. Yeah, I said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I damn well said it. Another Sambo. I'm just showing y'all. Go another one. Here go another one. Look at these niggas. Look at them. Go another one. He's gone. Another one. Yeah, that's the issue right here. These niggas. Look at all these lawyers. Look at all these fucking lawyers. Ain't passed one reparation resolution yet. None of these niggas. None of them. Look at how despicable this is, y'all. I'm still going down the damn list. Look at all these niggas. Lawyer after lawyer after lawyer after lawyer after lawyer. I can't even look at this no more. I got to put my processes up. I can't even handle it no more. These are the Negroes that told you if Donald gets in office and if you don't vote for collard greens, Miss Collard Greens, the sky's going to fall and y'all are right-wing conservatives. Y'all are right-wing conservatives. Here's another problem. Here's another problem. Because we're talking about this tonight. I might have to go into another story time analysis for this. I might have to go into another story time analysis for this one. But since we're talking about the boule, let me see if I can find this. I'll bring it up later. we'll do a story time. I'm going to calm my nerves. That hit something right there. Because anytime when you have that many black lawyers that they keep propping up and acting like they're the best on God's green earth. Oh, they've done this award, that award, that award. That's the problem. I was talking to my homie Solomon about that. He said, man, Foundation is going to separate themselves from the ckBla class. Yeah, I just named a bunch of them. It's a bunch of them niggas. That's what the issue is. And the day that their powers diminish, it's going to be a beauty to the world. They're the reason why we don't have our federally designated freedmen status of the U.S. on the forefront. They don't talk about it. They don't even use the term freedmen. They keep using African-American race-based terms that they know we can't use. So why isn't, again, here's my question. Why isn't the CBC and the so-called black leadership class, specifically those especially that are lawyers, they know the legalese and the law term. Why do they not use lineage-based wordplay when they know it has to be used to even bring apart standing? We already got the Freedmen's Bureau. Why don't they use it? Why didn't they use that for the Fearless Fund? You had Benjamin Crump out there. You had Crump out there, but they still didn't say it was lineage based. So that's my question to the listeners. I'm going on damn near 2 hours. So that's my question.